Every WW2 Field A radio ranked, junk to legend. Today, we're ranking every major field radio of the Second World War, from the unreliable boxes that left platoons cut off and dying in the snow, to the legendary backpack transceiver that coordinated the largest amphibious invasion in human history. D tier, the worst, the radios that failed the men who carried them. Rank 8, the Type 94-5, Japan. Let's start at the bottom. The Type 94-5 was Japan's standard regimental field radio, and it tells you almost everything about why Japanese ground forces struggled to coordinate at scale. Picture this. You are a Japanese signaler on Bougainville in 1943. Your radio is built into a wooden case, sealed with rice paste glue, and powered by a hand-cranked generator your assistant has to spin continuously while you transmit. The set operates on a crystal-controlled frequency that cannot be changed in the field. If the crystal breaks, and they did, the radio is useless. The Type 94-5 had a range of around 8 kilometers on a good day, less than half that in jungle conditions. Humidity destroyed the components. Salt air from the Pacific corroded the connections. Japanese Signal Corps doctrine relied heavily on field telephones and runners precisely because the radios were so unreliable, but runners get killed and telephone wire gets cut. The result was Japanese units that often fought blind, unable to coordinate with neighboring formations, unable to call for support, unable to even confirm whether their own headquarters was still functioning. The Type 94-5 did not lose Japan the war on its own, but it contributed to the collapse of Japanese command and control in every major Pacific campaign. Rank 7, the RF-3, Italy. Italy's primary infantry radio. The RF-3 was a backpack set issued to Italian Royal Army signal sections, and it suffered from the same fundamental problem that plagued every piece of Italian military equipment we have ever ranked on this channel: inconsistent production quality. Some RF-3s worked, others did not. There was no reliable way to tell until the soldier needed it most. The set operated on medium-wave frequencies, was sensitive to terrain, and had an effective range of around 5 to 7 kilometers in the open. In the mountainous terrain of the Italian campaign, that range collapsed to almost nothing. Italian signal officers complained throughout the war that their radios could not maintain contact with units only a few hundred meters away on the other side of a hill. Repairing them in the field was nearly impossible because spare parts were never standardized. Two RF-3s from different production batches might use different components for the same internal circuit. Italian Signal Corps were brave and well-trained. They were defeated by the equipment as much as by the enemy. C tier, bad tier. Workable radios with crippling limitations. Rank 6, the Tornfu D2, Germany. Now this one will surprise people. The Tornfu D2 was Germany's standard infantry company radio, a portable transceiver designed to be carried in 2 separate cases by 2 men. On paper, it was a sensible design, frequency-modulated transmission, a range of around 3 kilometers for voice and up to 15 for Morse code, reasonably rugged construction. So why is it in C tier? Because the Tornfu D2 was a perfect example of German engineering for the war Germany expected to fight. Designed for the maneuver warfare of 1940, where platoon-level coordination over short distances was what mattered, the set was completely outclassed by the longer-range American and British equipment that emerged from 1943 onwards. The 2-man carry was awkward. The vacuum tubes were fragile, battery life was poor. German signalers on the Eastern Front complained that the set's range collapsed in cold weather and that the antennas snapped in winter conditions. German engineering optimized for the wrong war again. Beautifully made. Doctrinally outdated within 2 years of issue. Rank 5, the number 18 set, Britain. Britain's main infantry company radio. The wireless set number 18, usually just called the 18 set, was a man-portable transceiver issued to platoon and company headquarters. It was a workable design, reasonably reliable, effective range of around 5 miles for voice in open country, could be used on the move with a chest-mounted control panel. So why is it only at number 5? Because the 18 set was hated by the men who carried it. The set weighed nearly 14 kilograms with batteries. The vacuum tubes were fragile and frequently failed when the signaler went to ground under fire. The battery life was poor, around 8 hours of continuous use under ideal conditions, and far less in cold weather. The crystal-controlled frequencies could not be changed in the field, which meant a battalion's radios all had to be pre-tuned before an operation began. If the operation changed mid-battle, and it always did, signalers could only communicate within their original frequency net. The 18 set served from Dunkirk to Burma to the Rhine. It did the job, but British signalers who later got their hands on captured German or American sets almost always preferred them. B-tier, mid-tier, the reliable workhorses. Rank 4, the RBM, Soviet Union. The Soviet answer to the field radio problem was, as it usually was, mass production over refinement. The RBM was the Red Army's standard regimental and battalion-level radio, produced in enormous numbers from 1942 onwards. The set was rugged, simple, and forgiving. The Russian acronym stood for Radiostanция Battalonia, Modernizirovania. The construction was crude by Western standards. Steel cases, heavy vacuum tubes, simple controls a conscript could learn in a few hours. But the RBM worked in conditions that would have destroyed more sophisticated equipment. Minus 40 degrees in the snow outside Moscow. Mud up to the wheels in the spring thaw. Dust storms on the steppes. The RBM kept transmitting. Its range was around 15 to 30 kilometers for voice, longer for Morse. More than enough for Soviet doctrine, which relied on centralized control from higher headquarters, rather than the small unit improvisation favored by the Germans and Americans. Hundreds of thousands of RBMs were produced. They served from Stalingrad to Berlin. The RBM is the Mosin Nagant of radios. Not refined, not elegant, just enough sets to win. Rank 3. The SCR-536, United States. Now this one is interesting. The SCR-536 was the American handy-talkie, the world's first true handheld two-way radio. Picture a brick of olive drab plastic and steel, with a long telescoping antenna sticking out the top. American infantry officers from platoon level upward carried them slung over the shoulder or stuffed into webbing pouches. The 536 was crystal-controlled, single-channel, and had an effective range of around 1 mile in open country, less in woods or urban terrain. It revolutionized small unit communications. For the first time in military history, a platoon leader could talk directly to his company commander without sending a runner, stringing a wire, or operating a bulky backpack set. American infantry tactics adapted around it. Squad and platoon leaders coordinated assaults, called for support, and reported contact in real time. The Germans had no equivalent. The British had nothing close. The Soviets did not even attempt the concept until after the war. Around 130,000 536s were produced. They were used in every theater, from the hedgerows of Normandy to the jungles of Burma. The 536 sits at number 3 because of what it pioneered. A handheld radio in 1941 was science fiction made real, and American GIs carried it casually into combat as if it had always existed. A tier, the elite, rank 2, the SCR-300, United States. The SCR-300 was the American backpack radio that took the 536's revolution and pushed it further. Picture a heavy olive drab box carried on a soldier's back, with a long flexible antenna swaying overhead. The 300 was a frequency-modulated set, the first FM backpack radio in widespread military service, which gave it dramatically clearer audio than the amplitude-modulated equipment used by most armies. Effective range was around 5 miles for voice. Battery life was significantly better than European equivalents. The 300 served at company and battalion level across the entire American Army. From the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of Luzon, to the snow of the Ardennes, American signalers carried the 300 everywhere. It was rugged, it was reliable, it was adjustable across multiple frequencies in the field, which meant operational changes did not paralyze the signal net. Around 50,000 were produced during the war. The 300 sits at number 2 because it was the workhorse of American tactical communications, and American tactical communications were, by a significant margin, the most effective of any army in the war. Its only weakness was weight. At 14 kilograms loaded, the signaler carrying it was a marked man. German snipers learned to shoot the antenna operator first.